The idea, or what I want to explore here, is for us to get an understanding or an aspire for both worldly and also Islamic knowledge. We use the word worldly. I don't like to use this term, but inshallah I'll talk a bit more about this. Hopefully by the end of this, inshallah, you'll have at least some understanding of the lack of knowledge which is contributing to our downfall. As a community, when you have a lack of knowledge, this contributes to a downfall. In addition to that, I also want to encourage some of the young shabab, especially the young brothers and also the sisters of the community, to get and pursue excellence in both fields. That means Islamic knowledge as well as ilm bil-darura and worldly quote-unquote knowledge. And last but not least, something which inshallah I want to highlight is not just for us to acquire knowledge, but for us to acquire specialization. And each thing inshallah I'll talk to you the reason why. Now in UK, we face a lot of challenges. When you agree as a community, we face a lot of challenges. But the truth is that from amongst those different challenges, we have certain key challenges that affect us. Probably one of the biggest challenges which we face is an issue where irtidad and people turning away from their deen is at an all-time high. There's an issue where people don't fully understand Tawheed and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result, we are seeing people, unfortunately, sadly, leaving the religion of Islam. And that deen which was supposed to be a means of guidance for others. Rabi ibn Amir radiallahu anhu, when he goes into the court of Rustam and he goes and gives him da'wah and he invites him, the Prophet ﷺ sent him, I want you to invite Rustam, one of the leaders of that time, one of the great generals. And he said to him, Rustam addressed him and he asked him and he said that, why have you Bedouins come to us? Why have you come to us? He said, we've come to only one reason. Firstly, Allahu ibta'athana. We didn't come on our own accord. It was Allah who sent us. Secondly, the reason why, لِنُخْرِجَكُم مِّنْ عِبَادَةِ الْعِبَادِ إِلَىٰ عِبَادَةِ رَبِّ الْعِبَادِ. We've come to take you out of the servitude, the ghulami of mankind, and take you onto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مِنْ ضِيقِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَىٰ سَعَةِ الْآخِرَةِ. And we've come to take you out of the narrowness of this world to the vastness of the akhirah. This was their da'wah to them. And when the non-Muslims would ask them, what should we accept? They would give a simple answer. Just become like we are. كُونُوا مِثْلَنَا. Become like us. We can't boast that anymore because we've become victim of the same malady which existed before. And the truth is, this is why I said having understanding on the oneness of Allah and identity, number two, this is another big crisis which exists within the Ummah. And what I mean by identity is a lot of us here, we don't aspire to be true Muslims because Islam is something, na'udhu billah, that is equated with backwardness in our communities. We don't look at Islam as a whole nizam of hayat, the whole living system. Islam is a whole system. Literally from the time our eyes wake up until the time we sleep, every marhala and stage in between, Islam has got a solution for. If Islam has not got a solution for every problem mankind is to face, then we would say, na'udhu billah, Islam is deficient. And this is where an objection comes. Some people say, if Islam is the religion of peace, why do you discuss war? Why do you have warfare? If Islam is about peace, why do you have war? Why do you have conquering? Why do you have, or if you want to, let's use the proper buzzword. Why is there such a thing called jihad? For example, just relax a little bit. You get me? Chill out a little bit, because this is another, if it's our lack of communication and talking about. Na'udhu billah, we're not encouraging fasad, we're not encouraging dhulm and injustice. But understand, why does warfare exist? Let's just answer that question. If it did not exist, if this did not exist, if this was not mentioned in the Islamic teachings, the correct way on what you are supposed to do, how do you govern, how do you control, what are the do's and the don'ts? If it was not down to Allah telling us, who would then govern what we do? Guys, I need you to interact a little bit, yeah, so I know you're following, because I don't want no one here to get a wrong understanding. And I ain't going Cuba, bruv. Right? So listen, understand this. If you are not governed by Allah, how would you govern? People's understanding, yes? If you don't govern by Allah's understanding, you'd be left to the whim of man. That's what the secular Western world has become. Whereas the ethics in relation to the Muslim thing is, you cannot harm any innocent. You cannot cut any tree. You are not allowed to hit and affect the clergy. you understand what I mean by that? अगर ये मरहला, अगर इसमें इस्लाम का तज़किरा ना होता तो हर बंदा अपना जी करता. But you understand that, yeah? If this was not governed by Islam, then everyone would do what they want to do and then there would be fasad. So why Allah has guided us? Because He wants us to stay within a particular boundary, that you stay in your limit. This is your lane, but don't move left and right. This is why it's mentioned. Not because Islam is, wants harshness and we want to, you get me, but there's rules that govern us. Because this is an objection people say. We say Islam is the religion of peace, but you talk about war. Of course it is, because if we did not talk about this, if this was the one part of the area which was not spoken about in Islam, people would say, Islam's not a complete way of life because you don't talk about this. Oh भाई आप समझ में क्या कह रहा हूँ? अगर ये पहलू ना होता तो आप कहते ये इस्लाम मुकम्मल ज़ाब्ता हयात नहीं है, because इसका कहीं तज़किरा नहीं है. So this is why Allah spoke about it, because then there's no stone left unturned for your understanding. This is why Allah spoke about these things. This is why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke about this. Now what did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? He said, مثلي ومثل النبيين كمثل رجل بنى دارا. My example and the example of the Anbiya before is like a person who built this wonderful house. But then what happened was, he built this wonderful house and he was inviting people to have a look. Yaar, tak mari koti, yaar, look at the house, bruv. And people are coming and viewing, but there was a small portion that was left untouched. There was a hissa, there was a part that was incomplete. فَجِئْتُ أَنَا وَأَتْمَمْتُ تِلْكَ اللَّبِنَةِ. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that incomplete portion of this house was me. I came and perfected and completed that lost brick. So Islam is now a complete way of life. There's nothing that needs to be introduced. We always go back to Quran and Hadith and we have our solutions. Islam is a complete way of life. So Islam will always have solutions until the day of judgment for our issues. Hence there's no need for identity crisis. Hence there's no issue for us having not that ta'alluq and connection with Allah. So we do face other problems. As a community we face Islamophobia. We also have an inferiority complex. Another big one. Ehsas-e kamtari or inferiority complex comes when you don't know who you are. If you knew Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, if you knew the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wallahi al-azim, it's hard for you to be influenced by others when you truly read, bruv. When you truly read what these people were about, subhanallah, you'd say, yaar, asal people are these, man. We get inspired by who? Trappers, drill stars, aliyadu billah, movie stars, models. They've got a small temporary wahwa, that's it. They're not models and ideals for life. When you study the lives of Sahaba, when you study the lives of the Salaf al-Salihin, and you'd say, subhanallah, we come from that legacy. These are our people. That's why inferiority complex exists, because we have not studied our deen properly. So these I'm mentioning to you some of the causes of the problem. And then you have media, social media, another big challenge which we're facing with as a community, and we're constantly bombarded with ideas. So what happens is that with all this sort of all this stuff happening, ultimately what happens with the issue of lack of education, identity, Islamophobia and all the sorts, it has a direct impact on the Islamic norms of our community and our societies. ठीक है? When Muslims arrived in UK, there was little awareness and influence of wanting to establish places of worship immediately. It came after some time. Because a lot of people who came here, we came as economic migrants. The idea was, I'm going to go to England, I'm going to earn lots of money, then I'm going to send the money back to Mirpur and Dadial and Atak and Swat Swabi, and inshallah we're going to be ballers. The issue is that there's no limit to the hirs of insan. So what started off as 1 year became 10 years, became 20 years, become your qabrs being built here and your children's qabrs here as well. Now we're third, fourth generation in some instances. And I met one youngster, I said, where are you from, brother? He goes, Blackburn. Now, where are you from originally? Blackburn, bro. Now, where are you? Like, you're not English, bro. So where are you from? No, bro, I'm from Blackburn. Okay, cool. TK, that's fine. That's all right, because I'm third generation UK, so I identify. But then you will always, there's always like for example, you're not white, so where's your roots from? Or my family are from somewhere in Pakistan, where? I don't know. Okay, fine. But you identify, meaning my culture. I'm born and bred in UK, and UK is my home, but I'm ultimately you're a quote-unquote foreigner. Nevertheless, why have I said that? So you'll understand. So when we came, we had this influence in our mind, and a lot of our elders can maybe relate to this. No one come thinking, I want to stay in England forever. It just became part of life, and then your kids were born here, and then, you know, those gotis that you built back home, wherever home was, your kids say, I'm not going there, I'm going for a holiday, but home's here, I got my job here, I got my family here. And when they go back and a bit of load shedding happens and machar bite them, they say, Bhai choro, I want to come home. And they say home, as in England. So these are painful realities. I don't know if you guys saw a documentary. It's about Gujarat, Karya. Have anyone seen that documentary? BBC did it. A documentary in Karya where they're showing you bade kothiyaan yaar, kanal kalane kothiyaan, and they're empty. Bro, one of the houses had majja in there. And I'm thinking, yaar, 2 crore, 2 kanal ni kothi. And I'm talking not just the house and the haveli. The house is like 1 canal, 2 canals. The house was massive, and in there the geezers got cows tied, feeding them grass. So it makes us think that where were our priorities as a community? Now, because we missed a heartbeat, we skipped a generation. Alhamdulillah, I'm not going to say our communities didn't make effort, they made wonderful effort. Durust say we had schools, makatib and so on. MashaAllah, you see here, alhamdulillah, you see masajid dotted everywhere. But now the issue is that our needs have somewhat become complex, and I'm not saying the masjid can't solve the problem, but they go beyond the normal situation of just teaching madrasa and maktab and just limiting it to the 4 walls of the masajid. We have challenges that can be dealt with from the house of Allah, but we need to think out the box a little bit. Maulana rightly mentioned, and he alluded towards this point, that Muslims were considered as some of the most civilized people on the face of the earth. We were educated people, we were cultured individuals, we had the seats and the centers of learning. And now we're a people more of inferiority complex, and we're playing catch up in more or less every sphere of life. You know, every sphere of life we're playing catch up. And again, I would like to mention that it's the Muslim Ummah at one time was, honestly, you can call them an intellectual powerhouse. And alhamdulillah, we was at the cutting edge of civilization. If you pick up certain books, you'll see that Muslims were respected in the entire world as being centers of learning. We reached peaks of scientific development, literature, arts, calligraphy. You know, there are such a great legacy that we left behind. Has anyone ever heard of the Islamic Golden Age? Yeah? Okay, so we've heard of the Islamic Golden Age. So if anyone, you know, can you remember what century it's from until, if you know that? Anyone? We've heard of it, mashallah, it's a good step. Huh? Is it 900 AD? Yeah, it's 8th century to kind of what year? About 13th century, 1250 to be precise, or 1258 if you want a specific dot. So you're looking at a period of about 500 approximately years of what is called as the Al-Asr al-Dhahabi, the golden era of Islam. Now during the golden age, Islamic major capitals, Baghdad, Qahira, Cairo, Qurtuba, these became the main intellectual hubs for science, philosophy, medicine, education, and other technological advancements at the time. Everyone following, yeah? Okay, cool. So what happened now? Check out this one. If I say to you the word Abu Zayd Hunayn ibn Ishaq, Abu Zayd Hunayn ibn Ishaq, what comes to your mind straight away? Come on? Bro, this needs to be interaction. If I say Bill Gates, what comes to your mind? Good. Okay, so now Abu Ishaq, you don't got to be right. Abu Zayd Hunayn ibn Ishaq. He sounds like an Arab person. He sounds like a Muslim. Yeah? But this was one of the beautiful things. The reason why I chose him specifically is 2 reasons. Number one, Abu Zayd Hunayn ibn Ishaq, he was actually a Christian scholar. A Christian scholar who was one of the leading translators in the golden era of Islam. So we had this thing where non-Muslims would flock to us as a people, and they said, if you want to gain academic prowess and excellence, go to the Muslims. They're the most forefront at technological, educational advancements. And someone did a really interesting thing. They calculated the amount of money that the Khalifa gave to Abu Zayd Hunayn ibn Ishaq, and they calculated it. It's estimated to be the equivalent of what a professional athlete would earn today. Imagine if our Maulvis got paid as much as Messi. Everyone would want to be a Maulvi. Innit? But honestly, when you pay peanuts, you know what you get after that. I don't want to finish the sentence. But I say it's the good, mashallah, the nature of our ulama, that despite having so less, they're still with that passion of deen, because they look at it as a fard kifaya for the community. Okay, if we are not willing to make that sacrifice, what will be the condition of our communities? Do you understand? I personally, wallahi, I can honestly say this, I've never met a scholar who is aspiring to study because I want to earn money from this. Because you know you're walking into basic peanuts. Here, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, it's the same situation. Now, I'm not here to, that's a different topic, okay? We're not touching upon equality and wages and so on. But the point is like this. The Khalifa of that time paid a non-Muslim translator more than what the professional athletes would earn today. Do you know what happened? There was an influx into people that wanted to be part of academia. Every one of, obviously we can agree to disagree. I'm not saying I agree in every translation that took place, okay? When I say this statement. Aristotle, Plato, all these different Greek works, they were translated into Arabic, and then this is what the ulama did. They read them, chucked out the garbage, re-Islamized it and presented it back to the people with an Islamic tone on it. So they kind of rehashed the education to fit our narrative. If we've got a problem with science, don't discard it, study it and represent it. You get where I'm coming from, yeah? If you've got a problem with politics, study it, study the Islamic side and re-represent it. And you can look at that every field of life. I'm a psychotherapist. Now, when we have different fields of knowledge, you've got, for example, a psychodynamic, you've got more person-centered, you've got more REBT, CBT, you've got, all these different ways of working. So now the idea is that as Muslim community, we have our own cultural nuances, our own needs, our own sort of like dimension and paradigm. We can't just say, no, astaghfirullah, ji sab baatil hai, ji sab kafir ka system hai, ji chodo ne. That's not going to get you nowhere. It's to learn it, understand it, and then rehash it and present it to our Muslim community in the right paradigm of Islam. That's then one of the needs of the day. Because we can't just say shun and bun, that's it, nothing to do with us. Otherwise, we're going to play intellectual catch-up. Because we're dependent. Like it or lump it, we're dependent. So we need to be able to rehash things according to the deen. Now, obviously, some people would say that, look, today we're the most knowledgeable because we've got knowledge on our fingertips. Where the issue is that despite all these technological and education and advancements, we've built a society which is basically based on inequality and injustice. So the knowledge, just for the sake of knowledge, hasn't made our society just. I'm saying, would you agree that we're probably one of the most knowledgeable people in society? Because it's on our fingertips. Has the masses of knowledge created a just and equal society? No, it hasn't. So the problem is that what type of knowledge are we acquiring? Just for the sake of acquiring knowledge is not the solution to the problem. So we need to rehash it, redefine it in an Islamic paradigm in order for there to be justice. And this is why I said, now I'll give you an example. Let me share with you an example. There's a charity called Shelter. Now they mentioned something interesting because where they say we've got a national house crisis. Well, that's not even true. There was a study done just in February, a couple of months ago. There was approximately 271,000 people in UK that are classed as homeless. 271,000 people. Okay. For those who don't know, 271,000, 2,70,000 bande is waqt homeless hai. Now check this out. The number of empty houses are 676,452. If you were to give approximately every person 3 houses that are homeless, still there's enough houses. So there's not an issue of amounts. There's not an issue of means. It's an issue of ethics, and there's an issue of individualism. I don't care what happens, I want to get paid. You haven't got your money for rent, get out of my house. It's an issue of greed. So we're the most knowledgeable we've ever been. That hasn't solved mankind's problems. The issue is not inquiring knowledge. And why I'm saying this, because we push our kids, bismillah. For what? For which maqsad? What, just to learn knowledge and be part of that same capitalist system that's bringing down mankind? How are you going to rehash and bring back the knowledge to the Muslim community? Everyone following? We need to present it and represent it in the paradigm and the shape. When I say paradigm, I mean the boundary, yeah? Like our vision, our Islamic ethos. So when we learn, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, as Muslims in UK, as Muslims globally, how can we present this so then it helps us as a community? Because learning the secular knowledge at the moment, I'm saying secular, which I've got a problem with that word, but forget the words at the moment. Learning quote unquote worldly knowledge hasn't solved the problem of the inequality. Inequality is getting worse. The richest 1% of the world, they own 2/3 of all the wealth of the world. The richest 1% of the world own 2/3 of the world's wealth combined. Look at the inequality. Now, alhamdulillah, we have the system of waqf. We have the system of zakat. We have the system of sadaqat. And there's so many wonderful systems that we have in place to bring about and to bridge the gap between rich and poor. In khulasa, in summary, money alone, if it solved the problem, the world would have been a better place. If knowledge alone solved the problem, the world would have been a better place. We've got ample supply of two. It hasn't solved our problem. As Muslims, we were sent for three particular purposes. Three particular maqasid. We've forgotten our maqsad. Understand this, guys. As a community, we've forgotten our purpose. Allah Ta'ala didn't just send you to become a taxi driver or a bus driver or an accountant or a lawyer. All those in their respective place. But Allah primarily sent you for three maqasid and three purpose. Number one, Allah Ta'ala mentions Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. Khilafa and vicegerency. Number one. Allah Ta'ala also mentions, well, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah created us for ibadah and worship. And number three, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. You've been taken for the benefit of mankind. Hence, da'wah ila Allah. So in short, khilafa, ibadah, da'wah. These three spheres of life. The purpose and maqsad and purpose of knowledge is not just to earn money. Anyone can earn money. Anyone can have a wage. Anyone can earn a bit of money. It's to establish Allah's deen. It's to establish the word of Allah. It's to assist the ummah in such a way for them to go from strength to strength. Hence the khilafah, hence vicegerency. These two particular things are dependent on knowledge which will benefit. And the knowledge that will benefit is that comes within the Islamic framework. That's why we have to have a paradigm shift. Now, if I were to just say to you in the beginning, don't study, you'll say, oi, rati gala. I'm not saying don't study. What did I just say? Did I say abandon studying? Oh, bol yaar. Koi litter nahi lagne. No, I'm joking, sorry. Did I say don't study? I didn't say don't study. I said study, but do what? Rehash it and present it in an Islamic paradigm. That's how you're going to make lasting worldwide changes. A few years ago, or maybe like not even as much as 30 years, even less than that, it was considered that if somebody says, I feel like a man, but yeah, I'm a woman, they'll say, bhai ji kuch masla hai. Bhai dimag ch kuch hai garbad. Nowadays it's celebrated. And people actually is supposed to be supported. And if you say anything to the contrary, it's considered absolutely against human rights and so on. Understand one thing, I'm not saying anything negative that we should do anything incorrect. Religion is also a protected human characteristic, a protected human rights law. So don't go out like snowflakes. Understand that when we're saying that we don't acknowledge it, we're saying lakum dinukum waliyadin. If that's your thinking, bro, that's your problem. That's your thinking, that's your business. But I will not allow your definition to over-trump my religious freedom and my understanding on dalil and evidence. Everyone following, yeah? If you get a phone call, let's just say, brother, I'll choose you, yeah? MashaAllah, because bare noor on your face, bruv. You work in a call center. I don't know where you work, but just hypothetically. You work for ambulance. A man phones up and says, bro, I'm having a miscarriage. A man phones up, bro, I'm having a miscarriage. Would you send an ambulance there? Don't worry, bro. No one can see you. It's okay. I'm the one that's going to get the beef. I'm the one who faces to lose my job, not you. Would you send an ambulance? Of course you wouldn't, man. You'd say, is this a prank? It's not possible. Logically, scientifically, chromosomes, it's not possible. What shifted? At the top, people inserted the definition that no, this is called dysmorphia, confused and so on and so forth. Back in a time it was considered. Now, because in a certain manual, that knowledge has been misconstrued. Now people are saying, yes, we have to acknowledge it as not a mental condition, it's actually an option. If we were those people with the forerunners to that knowledge, would we ever allow that to happen? It wouldn't happen. We would say, look, I can empathize with someone, I can sympathize. If someone's going through problems, wallah, I feel it for you, because that's not normal. In my humble understanding, from my religious paradigm and my religious rights perspective, I'm not going to discriminate against you. I'm going to make sure your huquq and your rights are met. But let's be serious. I can't go along with your narrative. These things are happening slowly because we have left a vacuum. Do you get it? So when we're 1.8 billion, we say, oh, mashallah, Muslim, 1.8 billion Muslims. Muslim, Allahu Akbar, 25%, 20% of the world. Okay, cool. How much have we really impacted mankind? We're playing catch up in every field. Every field, because our maqsad of learning is just learning for the sake of money. I asked one youngster. I said to him, bro, but you know I'm joking then. So I said to him, young man, tell me, bruv, what do you want to be when you're older? I want to be a dentist. Why? And he goes, I just want to be a dentist. I said, Tika. And I knew, obviously, don't worry, we get to the truth. It's our job as therapists. We get to the bottom quite fast. I said to him, describe to me your perfect day. He goes to me, I would be awake, I would be on a boat somewhere, and I said, work-wise. He goes, I'd make a few deals and business and internationally travel. And I said, mashallah, good. After a couple of minutes, and he was like having a smile on his face, I said, in all that definition you gave me, where was the cleaning of people's teeth? He goes, it wasn't there. So I said, you need to reassess your life, my friend. Why, let's be honest, why do you want to be a dentist? And he goes, I said, okay. Imagine if you were to get the same money for being a madrasa teacher, £100,000 a year. What would you do then? He goes, I'd be a madrasa teacher. So I said, the asal reason is money. We get to it eventually. Dare say, durust say. So the reason is money. A community that thinks solely on economic purposes will never understand its true maqsad and purpose. And when something hits the fan and they're afraid of their economic thing getting hit, that's when they'll twist and misconstrue the deen to support that narrative because their money is at risk. But if you're willing to please Allah, I stand here with the khatra that my job can go, and I understand this. Are you guys getting it, yeah? Right? Because we also work in a sector which is part of the public sector. So this is not the normal narrative. But I'm not going to sit here and allow next man's definition to triumph my human rights. I'm not going to allow next man to dictate to me because they feel like they're a cabbage or a broccoli or a man or woman to tell me what I need to think. I empathize, I sympathize, and I say, I feel really sorry for you. I think you need to get help. I won't discriminate. I'll also fight for your rights. But that will not triumph my definition of haqq and batil. So our knowledge should be, our existence should be, our learning should be, our acquisition should be only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you mean business. Otherwise you are just a piece of rice in a grain and a sack with no haysiyat. You understand? So this is why we need to first, like I said, we need to understand the problem and then we need to have a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift is a complete assessing of the situation and moving away. And I've got 20 minutes to do it. More, inshallah. So in amongst the Muslim community, right now we have, okay, what is the maqsad of education? I said to establish, to establish Allah's hukum, to establish, the deen of Allah. But it's to replace an empty mind with an open one. To educate your mind is to fill it an empty one with an open one. Now, there is three types of categories that exist within our community, especially when it comes to even Islamic knowledge. Normally, a lot of us aspire for our kids to study. I don't think there's a single parent here, or there may be some perhaps, those who are perhaps groomed in a certain way or think a certain way. They don't want you to study anything quote unquote worldly because it leads to non-Islam stuff, you get me? But that's very few in our community. Majority of us push our kids to such an extent, we say to them, you are nothing. You without money, tu kuch bhi nahi hai, tu bagharat hai, get a degree. Like we punch so much effort on this. It's like we try to brainwash. Now all the pep talks, all the force, all the struggle, all the tuitions, do we still have failures in our community? Of course we do. So now equate that. You think by sending your kid to a madrasa for 2 hours a day, sporadically once or twice a week, sometimes 5 at the very most, a couple of years, they finish the Quran, and then they finish the Quran. There's nothing after that. And I'm going to come to this in a second. So the first group of people that exist in our community are those that say, na'udhu billah, Islamic education, madaris, they serve no purpose at all, they're a waste of time and they're non-productive. That's one category of people that do exist. The second one are those that are only religious, that they say that there should be only religious knowledge and they shun anything which is quote unquote secular. And I'm going to use that word deliberately now. Then there's a third group of people, which is the majority of us in UK, a lot of us. We take benefit, very limited. Torah. We take very limited benefit. This fits most of us here. And the reason why this is a lot of us here is because we've come here and we see a society where we think, oh, I like England, but I don't want my kids to be purely like that. So I need to send them so they get an identity and some knowledge. I would say in Muslim countries, or can you even call it the Muslim in some instances, where Muslims majority live, it's a tick box exercise. Go to Khala to do spara. That's it. That's the be all and end all of your Islamic knowledge. You go there 15 minutes, ek do liter kha ke mud aao ji, ek Quran ki taaleem hai. So we don't actually give it its full haqq. But like I said, there's three particular groups. Well, the reason why the first group, what was the first group? Those that think madaris are useless. Second, they say everything is Islamic, dunya is useless. And then you have the in-betweeners. The first group, the reason why they think like this is because the majority of the reason is because of wealth. We equate wealth with success. Wealth, advancement. Wealth, culture. Wealth, freedom, and so on and so forth. And we're mar'oob with these ideas. And as a result, what happens is, if you accept these ideas purely on the surface that we just want wealth, and then you're not bothered about halal and haram, then it's easy for you to be affected by very easy different identities. Specifically secularism, which exists in our community. Can anyone define what secularism is?
That's away from religion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, it's basically the separation of religion from civil affairs and state. A complete separation. Where you say religion is your public life and also your private life, and you have your worldly life, and you don't mix the two. It's a personal affair. You keep your religion at home and everyone else, that's secularism. That's why I don't like the word secular knowledge. I think it's oxymoronic. It doesn't make sense. It's complete polar opposite to what we want to achieve. We say all ilm is beneficial if it takes you to Allah and it helps the community. By समझ गए? Obviously there are some forms of knowledge which are fuzul and batil. We're not talking about every field of knowledge, but that which helps the community, that which advances the community, that which helps you recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So minimizing the safir in community, that's basically classed as what we class as secularism. Subhanallah, I've heard this a lot. Haven't we heard this? Ulama should have no part in politics. Nahi, bilkul. Oh, Maulvi na kam hi nahi hai. Why not? Why not? If deen is a whole package, why shouldn't you have ulama in politics? If some ulama, and I'm not here to chuck a mudsling, but if some people have taken, and we differ with them, it doesn't mean that the entire system shouldn't involve ulama. Subhanallah, ajib, man. I read this, na'udhu billah, Allah forgive, right? This happened in Pakistan, and a lot of people here can identify it probably from the subcontinent, more specifically from Pakistan, right? It was Maulana Zafar Ahmed Usmani, rahmatullah alayh. He actually mentioned, Pakistan ka matlab kya? La ilaha illallah. Yeah? We founded it on the basis of deen. So we should edge and step toward establishing the law of Allah. Someone laughed, Maulvi Sahab, what are you talking about? This was the comment. In Urdu, just for those fish and chips guys that don't understand Urdu, bruv. Right? He said this. He said that we should establish Islam. We should establish the law of Allah. They laughed. What are you saying? Should we put lotas in the House of Commons, the Parliament House? Is that what they call it? Like the man sit and they just beef at each other, and they tap every now and then. I don't know what it's called anyway. But where the MPs and that sit. There was another one I was reading. Right, someone came to one Maulana and said, "Maulana, please make dua for my son." He goes, "Ya, may Allah make you a hafid. May Allah make you an alim." He goes, "Oh, Maulana, maine kaha dua karo, but dua na karo, please." Please, I didn't ask you to make badwa, I asked you to make dua. So this is our na'udhu billah perception of some people. It's like we've made a complete separation. This is really unhealthy. That's what's going to create this problem. May Allah Ta'ala forgive. There's a lot I can mention on this situation, but obviously because time is running out short, I thought I had about an hour and 15 minutes, so I've got to skip a few parts. Otherwise, The backbone of the Muslim community, believe me, if you look at, for example, now South Africa, one of the reasons they were so successful is Muslim migrants there now, 6th generation, but they had a very strong Islamic education system. Muslims migrated the same sort of time in South America, and they did not capitalize in the 1st, 2nd generation. Their communities, majority are murtad. Your backbone of your society would be your education, Islamic as well as quote unquote worldly. You need best of both. But listen, if you had to choose one over the other, if you had to, which one should you be choosing? The Islamic knowledge. Because if you didn't have money and you at least knew Allah, Qala Rasul, you understood Quran, you do your best to try and strive and do. Yaar, inshallah, idhar na say, udhar say, yaar. You get me? At least something. But yet, if I plunge myself headlong into acquisition of wealth, I haven't understood the maqsad of knowledge. I haven't tried to uplift and assist and I haven't tried to establish the law of Allah. What are you doing then? You're just another, as I mentioned, a grain of rice within a sack with no haysiyat at all. So moving on, right, there was the other group of people, or those that they say we need to shun completely any knowledge except for Islam. The problem is, right, is that I disagree with this statement, because if you look at the Islamic golden age, you will see the likes of Abu al-Qasim Zahrawi, Ibn Nafis, Abbas ibn Firnas, Ibn Haytham, Jabir ibn Hayyan, Khawarizmi, Ibn Sina, and all these particular individuals. And some of you people may be saying, sorry, who's that? Well, it's a shame we don't know these people. Now, if I say to you, Messi, Ronaldo, Rambo, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kardashians, na'udhu billah, yeah, all these we know, bruv, Cardi B, but we don't know these people. This is what I'm saying, it's an identity issue. We don't even know. Okay, let me ask you like this. Ibn Nafis, right? Well, let's start with Abu al-Qasim Zahrawi. You know, modern surgery, the tools we use, bro, I don't know, is it just me or is it hot in here? I thought it was the taqreer, bro. I'm like, the hot. I'm actually starting to sweat, but it's alright. Garma majlis, mashallah. So I was saying, Abu al-Qasim Zahrawi, the father of modern surgery. If this was haram, liyadu billah, manana, you're promoting fitna, tell everybody just, no. Well, we have the examples that is from the Salaf. Ibn Nafis was the father of modern day physiology or anatomy. Abbas ibn Firnas, it wasn't the Wright brothers who designed aviation first, it was Abbas ibn Firnas. Aviation, and again I've mentioned some of these names. Do you like chemistry? No? You don't know? Do you know what chemistry is? Sorry? Oh right, but you still should know. What year are you in at school?
Year 6.
Yeah, chemistry, man, you do that stuff on a basic level. But anyway, chemistry, the founding father of chemistry is Jabir ibn Hayyan. You see, so like this, Muslims were not only contributors, they were pioneers. Chemistry, pharmacology, Ibn Sina, modern day medicine, Al-Khawarizmi, the father of algebra. You see, so like this, guys, alhamdulillah, we have a rich Islamic history, we have a rich Islamic past. If this was something categorically haram, even I'll take you, look, let's go even far back. I've given you these examples. When it was the issue of Khandaq, yeah, I haven't got time to go into the battle. If you don't know what that is, understand this much. Muslims were going to be under attack by the mushrikeen in Makkah and the surrounding qaba'il. They were literally going to launch an attack on Medina. So they knew they could not withstand the force, the Muslims in Medina. So they thought, okay, what do? We'll build a trench, a ditch. You can't just jump over, and you can't take a horse, you can't take a cart, you're stuck. Then what happened was they narrowed the passage. So let's just say, for example, 40, like a few hundred meters that way, few hundred meters that way. This is the only opening. You only need enough people to stand and fight the force, and they will get repelled. Do you get it? But if it's opened, it'll be a launch, it'll be an attack, you'll be done and dusted with. Salman Farsi gave the opinion. Salman Farsi radiallahu anhu, he gave the opinion. This is what we do at the time in Faris. This is what we used to do back then. It was a darura, a time in necessity, but it was used in the benefit of Islam. That's all we need to do with knowledge. It's not about selling out. It's not about becoming coconuts. It's not about losing your thing. It's about earning and then inspire. You learn and you aspire to inspire. Bas. Historically, not that I want to put dirt on Muslims as a community, but when the printing press was actually invented in 1436 by Johannes Gutenberg in Germany. Germany from Gutenberg in Germany. 1436. Now when Muslims first come across this, their first thing was of skepticism. They said, no. We can't take this because it's built by the kuffar. We can't take part in it. As a result, in 1985, Khalif Sultan Bayezid II, he actually forbade it. Complete outlawed. No one's Muslims are allowed to use it. Sultan Salim I in 1515 took another step forward. He said, and he issued fatwa, if anybody is caught with printing press in Ottoman land, they'll be executed. Because this is a kuffar system. Hum nahi qabul karte yahan pe. So that's what happened. But then what happened was this. In 1492, there was the fall of Grenada in Spain. Everyone heard of Grenada, yeah? Good, okay, Spain, Grenada, Muslims, Exodus, Reconquista, Tiga. Then a lot of people left. Now what happened was a lot of Yahud, a lot of Jews, they fled Spain and they joined Ottoman Empire. What they did was they petitioned the Sultan to say, look, in Spain we used this, there was a lot of benefit and there's a lot of khair in this. So what happened was that the Khalifa, the Sultan, allowed them to use it to print books in their language for their needs, but not to sell them to the Muslims. But you can use it, sell it to your own people, not to Muslims. This what happened? In Ottoman lands, the most educated people became the Jews and the Christians. That's what happened. Because you're allowed to do it, but you're not allowed to sell to Muslims, you're not allowed to print Muslim books. Keep it between yourselves. Guys, do you know when the first Quran was ever printed? The first Quran, not handwritten, the printed version of Quran. Does anyone know this answer? Bro, 1537. Do you know where? Italy, Venice. It wasn't done by a Muslim, it was done by a non-Muslim. It was after 300 years, in 1726, after Gutenberg's sort of invention, finally the printing press was allowed in Muslim lands. But have a guess what? For secular books, not Islamic. I mean, look, subhanallah, we've learned this throughout history. We've made mistakes in the past, and this is why I say we need to look at history, analyze, and then mashallah learn from that. Otherwise we're literally sheep. What I'm suggesting is that forget you got this one extreme. So one is that everything is dunya, everything is this, ban the Maulvis, bruv, they're just jahil, backwards, just eat halwa, nothing to do. And then you got the other people that say ji kuffar system khalas na, all shan ban. No, there's a middle path. That's what we need to focus on. And what did I say at the beginning? Let me make sure you guys understood. We need to learn knowledge for what? Just to earn money? No. For the benefit of your longevity as a community in UK. How can you benefit mankind? How can you shape ideas? How can you rehash and give back and re-Islamize knowledge for the benefit of the wider public? And I say that word, benefit for the wider public, because I truly believe the solution to mankind's problems is in Allah, Qala Allah and Qala Rasul. And if you think that another ideology is better than Islam, wallahi al-azim, this is the door to kufr in your heart. Islam has the solutions. You need to study the solutions, and in order for you to study the solutions, you need to understand the basic things of deen. Honestly, be judge and jury for yourself. Are we upset and moved that our kids don't even know the basic tarjumah of Surah Fatiha? Are we moved, and do we even think to ourselves, our children don't even know how to pray salah? When we say to a child, and this is the majority of us, we're in the middle, better go to masjid, do the khatam. Yar, khatam in our society means khatam. Bas. Allah forbid if I use another word, they say Jan chutgi khatam in that sense. Na'udhu billah. It doesn't mean that you start and restart. It's by your job is done. Job, alhamdulillah, I've done the khatam. By Quran padna sirf maqsood nahi hai. Quran khatam karna maqsood nahi hai. Apne aap ko Quran be khatam karna asal yahi maqsood hai. Do you understand what I said? It's not just to finish Quran, but rather to finish yourself in establishing the Quran. That's asal. There's a shi'r, a poem. Shikwa, Jawabi Shikwa, I don't know where it came from. I just know it's Iqbal al-Shi'r. He mentioned that वो ज़माने में मुअज़्ज़ज़ थे मुसलमान होकर और हम ख्वार हुए तारिक Quran होकर. There was a time when Muslims were at the forefront, leaders. They understood Allah, they understood the word of Allah. And if anything, we've become disgraced because we've turned away from the word of Allah. So we need to have examples of both. And when I say learn Islamic knowledge, one badi ajeeb musibat we got in our community. When people want to do a course, Islamic course, they don't start with Tawheed. They don't start with teaching you the rational understanding and answers and the justification for Islam and the compassionate message of the deen or tafsir or Quran. In our communities, if they ever do an Islamic course, the first course they do, jinn. A jinn course. And it becomes a sellout. £40 a ticket, jinn. Or Baramaza, jinn. And Dajjal, that's another one. Do a bayan on Dajjal, or this masjid would be full with youngsters that want to hear Dajjal and Yajuj Majuj. Now, although that's got its place, and I hear that. But the reality is, what's more important, Tawheed, Risala, Quran, Tafsir, these things, or just jinn? But what's more important if you had to choose one of the two? The first, innit? Exactly. So this is why as a community, think out the box a little bit. It's not just a case of going for just a course or two. It's about really gaining depth and understanding the Quran and the needs of our community. I want to finish off on just some points, inshallah. And we'll just come to a solution and finish. I asked the brothers a question earlier, and I asked you this question. We, taqriban, in Muslims in Crawley, we must have spent, and I'm not, listen, for the record, I'm not saying don't give to the masajid. Don't interpret it this way. I'm saying just think of this a second. In Crawley, we spent, lagbag, I reckon, about £5 million in it, boys. 5 million quid in it on 2 masjids. Yeah, approximately. It could be more, could be less, but around about the 5 million mark. Imagine if we were to put that £5 million building a world-class school that gave deen and dunya both, from nursery all the way up to A levels. Wallahi al-azim, you'd be producing some serious thinkers. And that's a base. They would be so grounded in the Islamic, not so grounded, but they'd have a good, strong base. Identity. You teach them the necessary requisites of deen and dunya both. That's just the start. 5 million quid, 6 million quid within a community. You could invest in people skills. I mentioned this once before at this point, when I came last time, but I'll just mention it once again. You can train up people in counseling, train up people in social skills, train up people in social work, people in drug addiction, people, for example, in mental health. You can train this locally, people to be involved in politics, social media, choreography. So many skills that you can benefit hundreds and thousands of people on a wide scale. So we need to invest in people skills. Investing in just simple structure, it has its place and has its need, and I'm not knocking that. We all need to contribute. But if you had a choice, an architect presented 2 pictures, one for 3 million, basic, gets the job done, one for 5 with all the trimmings and the cuttings and the bumper and all this sort of stuff, which one do you choose? Save 2 million quid, reinvest that on people, put it in people skills, and then see what happens in your communities. It's called thinking out of the box. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he built Sahaba with qualities. He had so much i'timad. Send Mu'adh ibn Jabal to one country, send another Sahabi to another country. These were people who had sifat and qualities. We lack sifat. But it doesn't mean we don't have sifat, we just lack it in certain areas. And mashallah, tabarakallah, the Muslim community is the most giving community, I would say, in UK. So let's focus like this a little bit, inshallah. Now, if some people say that, look, we haven't got that sort of money. Okay, cool. In your communities, Burnley, up north, wherever you may be, you have prominent people within the community that have certain skills. Now, let's just say a brother, for example, he knows, I don't know, let's use an example. Graphic designing. He could say, right, I'm gonna hold a graphic designing class for a whole year. I'm gonna do this fi sabilillah. I'm gonna teach the basic skills to anyone in our community. And a brother who's an accountant, he says, I'm happy to take on 5, 6 trainee accountants, inshallah. I'm going to train them. So like this, we share the knowledge and take people under your tutelage and give them that way. If it can be done within the masjid, mashallah, that's all and good, providing the necessary skills we need. And our community, when it comes to tuition, we're happy to pay £20, £30 an hour. So why not operate that from the masjid as an example? If it can be done, it's the food for thought. It's food for thought. I'm not saying it has to be done, it's just to get the conversation started. But then again, like I said, in order for us to have that mentality where we see both fields of education, we need to see both as complementary, not a polar opposite. They help each other. Listen to this. If I study, brother, if you study choreography, do you know what choreography is, yeah? Like video stuff, yeah? If you studied it with the intention that you're going to upload people's twerks, would you go get swabbed for that? No, you're going Jahannam, bruv. straight up. But if you did it for the sake that I want to, like for example, take this video as an example. I could be waffling, but someone might benefit from something which I say. It might trigger a thought. If I were to give you this footage and say, take out as many clips, upload it, would that be beneficial? Yeah. But you can't be just uploading shoddy stuff. It has to be decent. So that's a skill you acquire. Bavahir, it can be used for deen, it can be used for dunya. A knife can be used to shank someone, it can be used also to cut other things, permissible things, even halal your chickens, bruv. So the point is, it doesn't mean the thing itself doesn't necessarily inherently have to be bad. It's the use, how you use it. Like when I studied, right, I went to go and get a degree. It was a family member. They meant good, bichara. They said to me, bruv, you might as well just shave off your beard and go and work in Asda. I'm like, why say just such a stupid comment like that? Oh, Molvi okay degree, Molvi okay. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? You're so averse to the understanding. Alhamdulillah, I can use my knowledge now and help back my community. Do you get it? I can help and I can utilize that knowledge. So you don't have to become a complete sellout, na'udhu billah. So the thing inherently doesn't have to be bad. You can use it for a good purpose. Yes, there are some things which are definitely jahal. Inna min al-ilmi la jahla. The Prophet ﷺ said, yeah, there are some things of knowledge which are ignorance. So we're not going to say it's all bed of roses. There are some ajib things as well. However, in conclusion and in completion, we need to see both fields as complementary and be masters of both fields and get depth in one particular field. Don't be a jack of all trades. Get one thing and work on that morning, noon and night. If you've understood the 10,000 hour rule, if you were to give every single day 10 hours to a particular task over 3 years, you would be a master in your field. The average youngster uses social media and tablets 5 hours a day. A 16-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, they're spending 6 hours a day. I'm saying, if you were to take one component of learning, choreography, maths, engineering, whatever it is, public speaking, Islam, tafsir, and you were to spend 10,000 hours learning that, Wallahi al-Azim, you would have a bank of knowledge at your disposal. And you can utilize it in a good way. So you got to think, I'm just unnecessarily scrolling, gaining nothing. Or do I learn that thing that can benefit my community? I finish off on this one thing, guys. So we need to teach Islamic sciences. We need to have a strong sense of identity. Quran, Hadith, history, Seerah, and other Islamic sciences to benefit the Ummah. Remember one thing, the more you invest in human beings, the more you will get back. A building can be artificially made to look like something. It itself does not provide any utility other than a temporary wahwa looking at the structure. The real thing will come is when we pour our efforts on our community, because Islam has not come to be dominated, wallahi, it came to dominate. Allah give us tawfiq, inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala inspire us. May Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq to, act upon the good that's been mentioned. Anything that I've said incorrect is purely from myself. I try to obviously give nasiha which I am needing myself. Na mera maqsad kisi ke dil dukhana, na maqsad hai ki main ami baatein karun. But the reality is, we've got so much potential in our community. We just need to sharpen the saw a little bit, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.